Hey, how's it going guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be continuing with a 100% walkthrough of Death's Gambit. So we're going to be continuing from where we took off last time, just after defeating the owl boss. As soon as we get to the next room to the right, we're going to notice that there's a ladder heading downwards, and if we jump down here for the time being, we won't be able to do anything. As you can see here, we just simply can't make it high enough to get to the items. The way to get up there is, over the course of a playthrough, the more and more you die, you'll build up a pile of corpses that you'll be able to climb over and eventually get to the top. Simply for the sake of showing you guys what's up there, I've hopped onto a higher level character I have, just to see what those items are, so you guys can see whether it's worth coming back or not. Once you've done this, there's nothing else interesting to see down here, so we can head back out and continue on to the right. And here we're going to get our second ability. Obviously, depending on which class you chose, this is going to be different for each and every one of you. And here we find the Central Sanctuary for the very first time. This beautiful area is going to be our hub for the majority of our playthrough. This is where we come back to when we want to go to the shops, or simply learn new abilities, talk to any of the NPCs that we go unlocking, which at the moment there aren't too many of them, but as we progress through the storyline, we'll unlock more and more NPCs. So here we also have obviously the main auto where we can level up. I would recommend saving at least 300 shards if it's your first time coming through here. It's just so you can buy the feather upgrade from one of the NPCs, which we didn't do in this specific playthrough, but just taking that into account, I wouldn't leave it too late. That's all I'm going to say about that. This is where the game really starts to open up and allows you to choose which direction you wish to take.
Up here, you no.
You've any solace, you might, if I am not.
You can go over here to the right if you wish to progress directly with the story, though it will be pretty tough on the levels we're at the moment, but you could perfectly just do that if you wish to. But we're going to take this pathway up here, pick up the crow plume, and talk to the first NPC, which is going to be Bast, and he is going to teach us abilities with the dagger. So if you chose the assassin, this is the guy you want to be talking to. After we've spoken with him, we want to continue climbing up the ladders here and jump off to the right, sticking to the left-hand side as close as you possibly can to fall onto this item down here, which is going to be a Leaf of Gaia. So again, we want to climb up here, go past Bast this time, and continue going left, jump across, and here we're going to talk with Sigur, and she's going to be the NPC that sells us the upgrade for the Phoenix Feather here for 300 shards. Like I said, I'd recommend picking this up as early as possible. She also teaches us some abilities. Last but not least, over here to the left, we're going to have Jacko, which is going to be the main merchant in the game. So to begin with, he doesn't say anything too interesting other than the Crest of Gaia, which is going to allow us to access certain locations that we couldn't get to without it. But it costs over 1,000 shards, so we're not going to be too fussed about that yet. Down here, we can unlock the shortcut all the way back to the outer, so we don't have to go around every time. So the first boss we've chosen to take out is going to be the Forgotten Gian. So for this, we need to head over here to the left, clear out the area of enemies, just to make sure they don't get in the way and interfere while we're trying to pick up these items, as they can be a little bit annoying to get sometimes. And here there's going to be another damage threshold chest, which depending on which class you chose, you should be able to get now or a little bit later on in the game. I would recommend, even if it's a little bit time consuming, if you are able to destroy this chest here, because you will get a pretty good reward from it, which is going to be the Wisp Aura. And what this does is it makes it so the ability in slot 1 costs 15 less soul energy to use, which is really, really good. So we're going to put that on, and there's also another item over here to the left, which you can jump across and slash in midair to jump across to and actually make it, which is going to be the Shield of Warding. Don't worry too much if you can't make it across here. It's not the best shield in the world. You could just come back afterwards when you have the dash ability, as it is a little bit complicated to get this jump to come out perfect. Anyway, now we want to continue over here to the left in this next room. Don't go too far forwards to not aggro the enemies with the bow and arrows too soon. And then just dodge the trap on the roof, make this guy blow himself up, and we're going to get the item down here. Now, here we have a decision to make. We could go down or we could go upwards. Above us is going to be the Phoenix boss, and below us is going to be the Forgotten Gian boss. We are going to go upwards first, even though we're not going to do the Phoenix boss quite yet, and there's a couple of reasons for it. And head over here to the right to pick up the first tome for the Phoenix boss. So we have one of the two before we take on the boss. From here, we want to continue to the left and pick up the crystallized plume, which is the whole reason we came here before heading down to the Forgotten Gian. And then be very careful, and here you don't want to continue any further left, because in this next room is going to be the boss fight with the Phoenix. And we need to remember we only have one of the tomes, so it would not be ideal to take him on quite yet. So now we do want to backtrack, and on the platforms where I said we could head downwards to go to the Forgotten Gian, this time we do indeed want to head down. After taking out these two shield enemies, over here to the right we will find the second tome of the Phoenix. Do note that you can't just jump up the same platforms that you just jumped down to get here. You would need to walk all around if you wish to go for the Phoenix boss now, which you could do perfectly fine, as the Phoenix boss is very, very easy once you have both tomes. But now we're down here, we will be doing the Forgotten Gian boss first, simply to save time. Once you drop down here to the left, continue going to the next room over here to the left. Down here we were able to find a couple of items in the water, if you really wish to. I don't think it was anything important. I believe it was Giant's blood. Now we have a little bit of platforming to do. Don't forget to pick up the item, which is just behind the Dragon Breath over here. Once we have, continue jumping to the left. When you get to the end here to the left, be very careful to not miss the jump onto the ladder. If you do miss the jump to the ladder and fall down, you will not be able to get back up and try this bit again. So be very careful there. If you fall down once at the top of the ladder, it's not a big deal because you can simply do it again because you'll fall back into the pit it was in just before. Either way, it's not too complicated. Jump all the way across and you'll be getting the Casting Tome +2, which this early on in the game, if you're a mage, is going to be absolutely incredible. Once we pick that up, jump back across and simply continue left. And this time you do want to fall down where the ladder is and continue to the left. In this next room, we're going to find an item, and then there's going to be a long ladder here to the right, which I'm going to show you, but it will be blocked off. Just so you guys can make a mental reference of this when we come back to it later from the other side, so you know exactly where we're shortcutting back to. And here we're going to find a snail NPC who's going to be called Alistair. So Alistair is actually the only NPC who can sell us Panacea, which is a very important item later on in the playthrough. Near end game, these items are going to be very useful. So if you do decide to kill Alistair, just take into account you'd want to stack up first on enough of these, just to make sure you don't have a hard time later on. The only way to kill Alistair is by using elemental attacks like fire arrows, for example, is how I've seen most people do it. And you will be given the skeleton key, which I believe is similar to the master key off of Dark Souls, which will allow you to unlock the cages before getting the respective key. But I don't think this is worth it, quite honestly. I wouldn't bother. So anyway, after you've done that, you can come down here, unlock the shortcut to get to the outer down the bottom, pick up the second tome for the Forgotten Gian, and then continue upwards. If you remember correctly, the first tome for the Forgotten Gian we actually got in episode 1, just before the Owl King boss fight. It is finally time to take on the Forgotten Gian. The first part of this fight is very easy. All you have to do is attack the foot, who has very, very slow attacks and very predictable. Easy to dodge. Be careful if it does hit you, it will take a considerable amount of damage away. And then Ione will jump down and you have to fight her again as you did in the first level. Still same moveset, very easy to parry still. Try to parry her as much as you can, really. It's pretty much the same as the first time. Just try to avoid the attacks of the giant by staying as far left as you possibly can. Then after she does die, you will have to take on the giant's foot once again, for whatever reason. Again, it's exactly the same. Nothing has changed since the first part of the fight.
Meddlesome twit. No, do you? Any mortal blood spilled here is on your hands.
Okay, so the Forgotten Gian is now defeated. Congratulations. What I would recommend doing now is head back to the Sanctuary, level up, and especially if you forgot or couldn't afford the feather upgrade from Sigurd earlier on in the playthrough, I would come back in now and buy it. Highly recommended. So once you've done anything you need to do in the Sanctuary, you want to head off to the left once again. Most of you probably remember the way to the Phoenix boss now, as we've already technically been right at the doorway once before. But just in case this place can be a little bit confusing if you've never played through before, we're going to be doing the pathway again, just to make sure nobody gets lost. Also, you can just shoot down that trap, by the way, which we didn't do it last time, which can be pretty helpful. And you can make that guy just shoot himself, pretty much. Jump across here, defeat this enemy, or just take an arrow to the face as we did here, I'm seeing. Next up is the Phoenix boss. We do have both of the tomes for this now. Another thing I would like to take a few seconds out to say is don't base the order you do the bosses on the order the tomes show here on the menu. For example, here it shows the Phoenix is the 3rd, and it also shows the Forgotten Gian is all the way down here in 5th place. This is a very bad order to do it in. And the second boss it actually shows there is the one you need to progress through the storyline instead of doing optionals first, so do them in whichever order you see fit. Don't pay too much attention to that. Moving on to the Soul of the Phoenix boss fight. This is a relatively easy boss fight as her HP is very low, and if you abuse your abilities, you should be able to kill her relatively quickly. The second stage, nothing really changes except the fact that she'll turn blue, and on her spin attack, which she does in the center of the map every time, she'll also fire out some blue fireballs at the same time as spinning with her gravity pull, so it's a relatively easy boss fight, as you can see here. We went in here with only one Phoenix, I believe, and we didn't have too much trouble.
Reborn from ash.
Okay, at this point we've taken out yet another of the bosses in Death's Gambit. So we've one more area in this video to go, which is going to be probably the main one where there's most hidden stuff. So continue here to the left and we'll find an outer. Spend all your hard-earned shards from the previous boss to level up in whichever stat you see fit. Don't base your builds around the one I'm doing here on the video, by the way, guys. This is just a quick build. I didn't really think too much of what to put my stats in. I'm just sort of rushing through this. This area, I must say, is one of the best looking as far as art-wise goes. It's absolutely outstanding. The contrast of the green with the red blood and the white snow is absolutely amazing. So, okay, let's take it slow. Be careful with these enemies. Learn the moveset very well. There's going to be a few of them, and they can do some nasty damage if you're not expecting it. Be careful with the ambush of this guy. We're going to have a shield wolf here, jump behind him, kick him over, and get a few easy attacks in. Now, here to the left, we have two pathways. We can go downwards and we can jump up. The first way we're going to go is jumping up here, pick up the item just here, kill the enemies. There's going to be a few floating crystals, same situation as before. And there's also going to be a hidden wall here, an invisible, illusionary wall for those of you who played Dark Souls. And we're going to get the Amarok bow from behind here, which is something I've actually seen many walkthroughs miss up until now. So be very careful with this item, especially if you're going to be using an archer class. And again, we're going to have a situation where there's a chest up here, which we do need to do a certain amount of damage to get, which is going to be the medicinal plume. This is actually one of my favorite plumes, even in late game, simply because it heals also some status alignments like poison and stuff like that, which can be very useful against certain bosses. So definitely pick this up as early as you possibly can. Here I also realized I hadn't actually equipped any of my my armor and stuff for whatever reason. But don't worry if you can't damage it enough from down here. I will be showing you how to get it just a little bit later on in this video if you're dealing low damage. We will actually be jumping right on top of it. So again, another enemy here. Be careful with the 3 spike traps right in front of this wolf enemy. Here there's 2 enemies. You want to jump over both of them. Get the one with the shield first that's at the back. And then be careful trying not to die against the other wolf enemy here, which is identical to the first one we fought as soon as we entered the area. That's why I recommended fighting the first one, simply so you know the moveset, so when you have to fight them in group situations, you don't have to take too many hits, hopefully. Anyway, backtrack, there is actually an item on the ground here, which isn't too important, but definitely remember to pick it up. Continue left, once again, we're going to find another outer here, so if you've got enough, obviously level up, do what you need to do. And And continue left, being very careful not to die by the spikes. Once you get to these wooden platforms, drop down and we're going to find the first of the tome for the next boss, which is going to be the Tundra Lord. Nothing else down there, so once you pick that up, continue left, and we're going to find 2 NPCs trapped in cages. So now, if you did decide to kill Alistair, which is the snake NPC, and got the skeleton key, you would be able to unlock these NPCs right now and send them back to the Sanctuary. But like I said, I wouldn't recommend killing off any NPCs quite yet, especially if you plan on doing any side quests and stuff. So for now, they're going to stay locked away. We do need the Amarok key, which we'll get for defeating the next boss, pretty much. So nothing much we can really do here at the moment. So now we're going to continue over to the left, and instead of jumping up there yet, we're going to continue walking all the way over to the left. This is completely optional. There's nothing really useful this way, but it is going to be a shortcut back to the area where we got Alistair, where we first met Alistair. If you remember correctly, there was this ladder with this doorway at the top that I showed you. I'll quickly jump down just to make sure you remember exactly what we're talking about. And this is a nice shortcut to get back up there, which I personally don't really use it whatsoever. There's not really much of a reason to use it, as the other way is relatively quick. But it's nice to have everywhere unlocked just for easy access in case you have any need to come back here later on in the playthrough. So let's climb back up and continue. This time, instead of taking the left pathway, we do want to continue climbing upwards. You'll notice a lot of items and locked doorways, which we're not going to be doing anything about quite yet. Don't worry, we will be coming back for everything a little bit later on once we've killed the boss and we have the key to access these. Obviously, like I said, if you do have the skeleton key, you'll be able to do all of the stuff right now, so just take that into account. Once we get to the top of the last ladder, jump across to the left and roll across these spikes, and we're going to find an upgrade for the feather, which you could grab later on, but I would definitely recommend picking up now, as it's going to be, the earlier you have these upgrades, the better. Try to bait out this crystal with the bow and arrow. Try not to suck at it like I did and take the hit. Just so it makes it easier to get across these spike traps. You can actually double roll through these spike traps, simply jump on the second one and aerial attack across them without taking any hits, but it's a little bit tricky to begin with. Now when you jump down here, you will be trapped between these 2 spikes, and you must take out this enemy before it will allow you to continue any further. So once you take him out, to the left there will be a gold chest, which the only way you can open it is get in here without consuming any feathers since the previous outer, the same as we explained in the first episode, which chances are you probably use some of it for the first time through this area, so don't worry about that yet. We can just simply grab that when we come back here later on with the key, as we have to return anyway, so don't fret too much over that. Now continue over to the right, defeat the other 2 enemies, and just continue over. Be careful, there's a hole in this bridge just here, which can make you fall down and do it all over again. So jump across there, and then activate the horn, which will allow you to progress through to the boss. And jump across here, and this platform is the one that the chest is on before, that I said with the damage threshold, in case you can destroy it from the bottom earlier on. Now, up that ladder we just unlocked is going to be the boss. So before we do that though, I would recommend walking back over here and resting at this outer instead of the previous one, as it's an easier journey to the boss in case we do die. And chances are you are going to die a couple of times against this boss. Now, before we take on the boss, we do need to remember that we are still missing one of the tomes for the Tundra Lord, which I'm going to be showing you where we can pick it up any second now. So we want to climb up to the top of this newly unlocked ladder. There will be an enemy that casts these spikes at us, so simply take him out so he stops pestering us. And continue walking across this bridge. This time we want to drop down though and stick to the right to fall on top of the tome. So there we have it. That is the second tome for the next boss we're going to be taking on. So again, climb up the ladder and continue across. This time, simply don't fall through the hole in the bridge and jump across. There'll be a couple more enemies you need to deal with just along here. Also, you'll notice that the sort of rip-off shopkeeper from the first episode will be following us here, so be careful with him to not get poisoned. Walk to the left, and this is going to be the boss room to take on the Tundra Lord. This boss fight can be a little bit more complicated than the previous boss fight, just because there is a bit of an insta-death mechanic included if you're not careful and you don't pay attention to what's going on. Don't worry guys, this is the third and final boss we'll be taking out this episode. There are still a few items, however, that we do need to pick up after killing the boss. This has been quite a long episode, so congratulations if you made it this far. After killing the boss, we want to come over here to the left and untie this NPC. This NPC is actually going to be the blacksmith, which once we untie him, he will get sent back to the sanctuary where the other NPCs are, and you can use him to enchant or disenchant any weapons or equipment you may want to. So definitely free him as soon as you can in your playthroughs, because that can be a pretty useful mechanic to have early on. Pick up the Amarok key, which is going to be useful to unlock everything we're missing in this level. The first thing I'd recommend doing is jump all the way down to the bottom and unlocking the 2 cages, freeing these 2 NPCs. They're both going to teach us separate abilities when we find them back in the sanctuary, though the male NPC is going to be a little bit further off to the right than the sanctuary, but anyway. Also, let's unlock all the doorways. We get the spear +2. Over here to the right, being careful of the blobs on the roof. Be careful of the spikes also when you're chasing down this crystal lizard, which will drop you some soul stones. Unlock the doorway, go through here, and in this eerie looking room, we're going to find 3 more soul stones. So once we pick those up, continue over here to the left. This is something else I've seen many people miss in their walkthroughs, is behind this door and behind picking up the fragile courage, there's actually kind of a hidden room where we're going to find another item. Pick that up and then continue climbing to the top. Let's see if we have a little bit more luck dealing with this crystal this time. We've got a little bit more practice. This is like a bit of a mini boss, I could almost say. So now we've dealt with them, we can roll across here again. I think we're going to take another hit, yeah. You can actually make it across there without getting damaged, but it's a little bit difficult sometimes. But then we can unlock this area at the top, pick up the item, which is going to be a Leaf of Gaia. And instead of jumping down to the right, remember there is that chest to... There is still going to be that golden chest that we need to make it to without using any feathers. So now would be a very good time to go after that. So come down here to the left, take out this enemy, hopefully without taking too much damage. And as soon as you do, jump over to the left. As soon as you do, run over to the left and unlock the golden chest. This will give us an Immortalite Stone, which are useful for upgrading any weapon or armor +5 to +10. So all the way to +5, it will simply use the soul stones, and once you get it past +5, you need to use the Immortalites. So that is everything for this episode, guys. I hope you did find this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe for more content coming very soon, and we will see you next time.